God. Herding cats.
Well, everyone's doing shit.
Tired of being the only type A around here. God damn it.
Hey! Right now is the time for me to leave everything I know behind. No more lies.
This room costs $2,000 a month. You can believe it, man. It's true. Somewhere a landlord's laughing until he wets his pants. No one dreams of being a doctor or a lawyer or anything. They dream of dealing on the dirty boulevard. Give me you're hungry, you're tired, you're poor. I'll piss on them. That's what the statue of bigotry says. You poor huddled masses, let's club them to death and get it over with. Just dump them on the boulevard.
Beautiful quote by Snake Plissken.
Welcome back. Yeah.
Welcome back. It's been a
I think he
while.
had it tattooed across his navel.
Certain presidential candidate could have said that quote right away.
Yeah. From the late, great Lou Reed from the 1989 album New York. The song Dirty Boulevard.
Guess what, guys?
What?
We're doing another podcast about New York.
Another one.
Oh, God. New York.
Can you believe
It's
it?
almost as if, like, New York and LA are the only two places that anyone films any goddamn movie.
Can you guess how many
Ever.
episodes we've done where the subject matter was set in New York City?
There's a spreadsheet for this in Joshua's
I bet there's at least 5.
library here.
What do you say, Lee Van Queef?
I'd say 7.
Ooh, God, split the difference. It's 6.
Is it
Oh,
really?
We've
Wow,
done 6 episodes.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know what percentage that is of the whole, but we're
That's
on.
a bunch.
I digress. We're back from summer vacation.
Back.
So this week, it's been described as the dystopian's dystopia. This week, we're taking John Carpenter's Escape from New York, and we're talking about it from way back in the year 1981. Stars Kurt Russell as anti-hero Snake Plissken. Plissken, who in the year 1997 it's a fun word to say. Plissken. In the futuristic year 1997, sent into New York, which is now, imagine if you will, a prison city, to rescue President Donald, not that Donald. Check out my American accent, Pleasance, who crashed his escape egg after Air Force One was sabotaged in an act of terrorism. So now Snake has 24 hours to go in,
Snake egg.
rescue the president, and fight off Isaac Hayes and his army of libertarians, or else his arteries are going to blow up because of the bombs that are put in there by evil arch bureaucrat Lee Van Queef. Sorry. Actually, I meant to say Lee Van Cleef, but ruined it, Greg.
Just jumped in there.
So, Brian, you suggested this. You've obviously been to New York City before, and you love Big Trouble in Little China. Had you not seen Escape from New York before?
No, I love Kurt Russell and I love John Carpenter, and I had never seen this movie, so I was like, I got to see this. So I was not disappointed. I don't know. I haven't seen Escape from LA either.
I haven't seen either of these before either.
Yeah, that's okay. But
I don't know how. I remember seeing promotions for like Escape in LA because that one came pretty far after.
I feel like every other college dorm room had the poster of Escape from New York, like up on the wall with the Statue of Liberty's head in the street.
Which never happened.
To be fair, I also hadn't seen They Live. So
Yeah,
I was just kind of righting some wrongs with John Carpenter. I saw The Thing a number of times, which I love, but just somehow these 80s films from him I never got around to seeing. So now I'm getting closer to seeing everything at this point.
Every John Carpenter movie, yeah.
I love his films. I mean, I was expecting more of a budget. I don't know why.
It definitely
maybe it's because I remember Escape from
together.
LA. It was not a bigger movie. I feel like
it was a bigger movie. It was like 1996 or 95 or something. So it was a bunch of years later. And Kurt Russell was a big star by that point. Like when they filmed this, I guess he really jockeyed really hard to get this part because he'd been playing like these Disney roles. He was like 29 and he was known for like happy, friendly Disney guy. Like it was like one of them was like the cat that ate a computer or something. I was like, what the fuck? I never heard of this thing.
Kurt Russell.
There's so many shitty Disney movies from like a black and white and like early color era that
was that in Pete's Dragon or something?
I don't know.
Apple Dumpling Gang, like isn't
Yeah.
Well, he had to have been in The Thing, right?
Well, The Thing was the next movie after this.
This was okay. I thought The Thing predated this.
This was the biggest movie he had done to that point. Carpenter.
Yeah. So I never saw it, but I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. There's a lot going on in this movie
Why don't you lay it out for us? What'd you witness?
Well,
what's the plot?
You kind of did
a little bit.
I
touched on it.
A little.
The high points.
They don't give you much of a backstory on why they've decided to turn Manhattan into a giant prison.
No, they don't care. That's the beauty of these movies. They don't give a shit. They just breeze through shit. They're like, I don't want to explain this stuff. You don't want to hear the backstory about this. I don't want to tell you the backstory. I just want to move along. A guy with an eye patch shooting up a bunch of people in a trash-strewn New York City. So let's dispense with giving a shit about the reality of everything. And
if I may, is this in the same multiverse as The Warriors? Is
it's totally,
the future of New York City after The Warriors, like 20 years after.
It's like Trash City still, like
the Duke very much reminded me of The Warriors.
Yeah, it's all like Cyrus from The Warriors, and they have a baseball bat fight. I was like, the baseball bat fight isn't The Warriors, man. So the plot of this movie is, as outlined by Jamie Lee Curtis's voiceover at the beginning, an uncredited.
That's not her.
Uncredited Jamie Lee Curtis. It is.
Really?
Yeah, I watched it again. I was like, that totally is her.
Because John Carpenter did Halloween.
So, as outlined by Jamie Lee Curtis, the plot of this movie is, it's 1997, the distant future, where horrible things have happened. In the year 1981, we imagine that 1997 would be this horrible dystopia.
There's a song called the Thong Song on the radio for some reason.
Cisco led to World War III. The Thong Song has led to World War III, and the United States is fighting China and the Soviet Union somehow, and they haven't nuked each other somehow. Because everything is bad with the world in general, they make New York City the biggest slice of prime real estate in the nation of America into a shithole prison. They're like, let's not take, Lawrence, Kansas. Let's take New York City, Manhattan Island, the fucking most expensive place in America, and make it a shithole prison with 50-foot walls around it, and sharks and lasers in the water, and dogs that bark, and when dogs bark, bees come out of their mouths and sting you in the top of the wall.
Yeah. And Mexico paid for the wall.
All this dystopian shit is like clustered around Manhattan Island. It's an island now for sure, surrounded by walls, and they prove it by blowing up two turds on a raft at the beginning of the movie to show you how serious it is.
A well thought out scheme.
That's so funny. They're like, turn around.
You have 10 seconds to turn around.
It just blows them up.
There's no indication that they have gone backward or forward. They just have like pieces of cardboard for fucking like paddles, and they blow them up anyway. Like, oh God, how'd you do them like that? You didn't have to do them like that.
Commissioner's like, confirmed 2 dead.
He's like, confirm that we killed those 2 turds. Yeah, we killed the turds.
I'll put it in the spreadsheet.
And then you hear an announcement. I was like, you are welcome to New York Island. You are here to spend the rest of your life. If you want to opt for death and incineration,
self-terminate or something.
We shouldn't do that for you now as a service.
I appreciated that, actually.
It's that bad.
I didn't mind that.
So yeah, New York City is a shithole island covered with walls and armaments, and every prisoner goes there for the rest of their life.
They're conservative enough to have walled off New York City into a prison, but they're progressive enough to allow voluntary euthanasia.
Like, yeah, exactly.
It's a hell of a society.
So many things that I have questions about. and so then all of a sudden we learn this. And while our minds are still, spinning around this new knowledge about the horrible future that faces us, a plane appears, and the lamest terrorist on earth is in the cockpit, and she's a school teacher from somewhere, and she has a manifesto written on a piece of like folded paper that she's trying to fiddle with, and she's like, "We have the president, and he's ours now, and we're gonna." Blow up the president or something, and bye.
I don't remember her cause.
Yeah.
No, not even remotely.
We of the people of the things that you'd never have heard of are going to kill the president. And they're following the president on these like antiquated blip machines. And they're like, oh God, it's Air Force One. And kind of spookily, it flies into the fucking New York City skyscraper. And you're like, Jesus Christ. And it blows up the plane. So the president's plane is blown up. But before the plane explodes, the guards try to break the door down by nudging it several times with a gun and then saying, it's hopeless, sir.
It's really stuck. We jiggled it.
He's like, what about taking the door off the hinge? And they're like, nah, that wouldn't work either. She pennied the door in like a dorm room door. She pennied the door. So we can't get in.
Put a door stop in the bottom of it.
WD-40 steps.
There's a high-heeled shoe crammed under the door. We can't
Sir,
get in.
She locked it really good.
Sorry. We know you're the leader of the free world and there's 17 of us in the plane, but there's just no getting in there. We have to put you in the red egg. And he's like, it's time for the red egg. And he gets in the red egg, what the fuck is this?
Sir, we must prep the red gobstopper. Get in.
That's made out of like styrofoam.
There's no sign of a parachute or...
This guy's like, drop me out of a plane in it. And I don't know why I have a British accent, but I'm the president of the United States.
I think he was trying to be LBJ, Donald Pleasant.
Something?
Like, it was vaguely Texan, but
yeah, so
definitely was not eligible to become president because he was born in England.
So the plane shits the red egg out onto Manhattan. And
at the very last second, like, it keeps going. Like, why does he not eject way earlier than that?
Like, over the water. He's like, well, we're heading for the world's worst prison island that we have no jurisdiction on whatsoever. Let's just wait as long as fuck to shoot the red egg out. And then, so they see the red egg crap out onto Manhattan and they're like, oh no, it fell into Manhattan. It's the worst. And they have a stupid scene where they land like 75 helicopters on Manhattan Island. One giggling goon with hairspray comes out and is like, we have the president, and here's his finger. Like, what? You cut his finger off?
I shit you not. I thought that was Steve Buscemi. Like, he looks like Steve Buscemi pretending to be Beetlejuice. I was like, what the fuck?
Beetlejuice. He does. So he comes out with a fucking finger of Donald Pleasance. So they land with all these helicopters and gunships, and the giggling goon is like, get the fuck off Manhattan or we'll kill him. And they're like, oh, we better go. The goon says. And they like take their armada off the island, and then they reconvene, and here's what they come up with. We'll take one guy who was in the army and is in prison for being trying to rob a giant like depository, federal reserve or something. We'll just send this one guy in on a fucking balsa wood plane, and that's it. That's our plan. We have 24 hours before the president, who has a cassette tape that has stupid information that somehow would like fix or end the world.
Yeah, there's a whole side quest there that has to do with Donald Pleasance has to be at a summit with Russia and somebody else, and there's
the cassette. You're like, what? It's got some shit on it. Why don't you just like? No one made a copy of this thing. Like, it's the only copy of the cassette.
It's in the suitcase, man. It's in football.
Whatever. They're like, we're gonna send Snake Plissken, this renowned criminal, by himself to rescue the president, and that's our plan. And the rest of the movie is Snake Plissken walking through a trash-strewn, fiery wasteland of New York City, trying to get the president off Manhattan Island so that the injections that they put into his neck that have microscopic little bombs in him that will blow up his aorta don't go off.
Yeah, he's got they put like a dead man switch in him. Or
something
that he has 24 hours to bring the president back, or they're going to detonate his neck.
We're going
to. Well, when you put it that way, Greg, it almost sounds ludicrous. Like,
I know, it almost sounds ludicrous. Which makes me think, like, man, that lady who hijacked the jet, if only she had the guns, right? She could have been like, we injected the president's neck with 2 little neck bombs. And if we don't get what we want in 24 hours, we explode the president's head. Instead, she blew herself up in a plane. But,
she's like, oh, I didn't know they had a red egg. And then
she's like,
and then she just rams into
the Teachers Union of America will not be denied. We will kill the president.
You didn't tell me about the pod.
I had a fucking egg. The last thing she sees before she dies is a red egg shitting out of the plane.
Plane crapping a red egg like a big hen. Shit.
All right. Well, what's good about this movie?
Everything.
We've sat through and taken in They Live, instant classic. The Thing. What's good about Escape from New York? What'd you like? Because your description makes it sound like you don't like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's another ludicrous movie. It's They Live is a stupid movie as well, to be honest, but like a lovable stupid movie. I love They Live. I couldn't even rate it because I was like, I don't even know what to do with this movie.
I think John Carpenter is really good at taking things that are just really dumb on paper and he's able to spin it into just a really delightful, popcorn film that don't think too hard about. It's insane. And I didn't have a huge budget, so just buckle up.
I think the thing with John Carpenter movies is this. I think it's the middle part that sucks. Where like the idea is great and it pitches great. If you say this to the movie studio, and this is what happened, like he was supposed to do another movie, and while he was having trouble with it, he pitched them Escape from New York, and the pitch is like, the island of Manhattan is a prison island, and the president gets kidnapped and dropped on the island, and one man with an eye patch has to go in and extract the president, and he's got 24 hours to live. Like, that pitch is great. You're like, oh, fuck, yeah, let's make that movie, whatever. Here, take my money. And then, like, then they have to write it, and then that's where the shitty stuff happens, Like, if you read the script, you'd be like, this is terrible. This is going to be a piece of shit. And then, but that's the middle part. And then the end part is he makes the movie, and like there's so much charming crap in it that it wins you over again. It re-pitches you on the movie that he pitched in the first place.
Maybe any sci-fi or / horror movie in this era, I'm never thinking it's going to be great quality. I mean, the budget's low, but as long as they're creative, same thing with like the Warriors or what, they're so over the top that they're enjoyable. To me, is that they're not trying to be real, and none of this is realistic. None of this is plausible, possible, or needed. I don't know. So it makes it even funnier to me.
Much of it is not needed. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great. It's like, yeah, let's think of the most ridiculous shit and then put it into a movie, and it's good times.
It's funny how everyone knows Snake too. Like,
yeah. There's a running gag that he's dead.
Yeah,
but they don't ever explain why everyone either A, knows who he is, or B, why they think he's dead at all.
My favorite, they want an excuse to do a prequel.
Yeah, right. My favorite part was when he walks into the theater, which actually I thought that was hilarious, that there's a theater. So it's a dystopian nightmare hellscape. And then he walks into a theater and you're like, oh God, what horrors await in this theater, And it's just a fucking theater. They're doing a play. And I'm like, that's a hilarious joke. Like, oh God, look, it's guys in wigs doing a musical. Like, that's funny.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was hilarious that Ernest Borgnine is like, watching the musical, and he's like happy as shit. I love Ernest Borgnine in this movie, by the way. We're still in what we love about this movie. And like, he's a cartoon character, but he's fucking awesome. I love him in this movie, even though he's not acting even a smidgen.
He's got a hat.
Reality.
That's his whole character.
Totally. He's got a hat and a cab. But Plissken walks to the theater, and he's like enthralled. But in Ernest Borgnine is enthralled with this musical, paying full attention to it. And then a guy walks down the aisle in a room full of guys walking around all of the time, and he's like, "What is this?" He like looks up and sees the back of a guy from like 70 yards away going into a little room, and he's like, "I must investigate." And he like runs down after him, and like opens the door, and he's like, "Hey, you're Snake Plissken. I recognize you anywhere. You're Snake Plissken, aren't you? You don't want to go down there, Mr. Plissken. That's a lot of bad stuff in the basement. Uh-oh. Like, I just love that, like, from like across the room, he sees a guy's back with a leather jacket. It's like, I bet you that's the famous dead guy, Snake Plissken, walking down
that we all know about.
We all know about somehow, and we know that, and we're quite sure that he's dead. But I'm quite sure that I'm going to leave this enthralling musical to see if it's really him.
I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to this guy.
I know. It's like literally, he sacrifices his life to drive this fucking guy around. Oh man.
So they find out that the president's been captured by the Duke.
Yeah.
Who's basically Cyrus.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And the head of the underground, and then Snake would like to be brought to the Duke, but he needs to go see the brain.
The brain bug.
He's like a halfway smart guy who has a map.
And he somehow makes gasoline. He makes guzzling. I don't know.
Guzzling.
Yeah, from Mad Max.
So apparently prison toilets or something.
Yeah, he's making Pruno in a
toilet wine.
And it turns out it's just the dad from 16 Candles, named Harold. But Brain's got himself a woman that the Duke has allowed him to have, I guess, and she's very committed to him. So.
She really is, for being an assigned wife.
Adrienne Barbeau.
That's John Carpenter's ex-wife.
Yeah, well, they were married.
That's a name I recognize, but I don't think I've ever seen.
They were married during this movie, as was Kurt Russell to the chock full of nuts lady.
What?
Yeah, chock full of nuts lady is Kurt Russell.
Seasoned Hubley?
Yeah,
seasoned Hubley?
Seasoned Hubble.
Girl in chock full of nuts?
Yeah, the girl in chock full of nuts, where you're like, who the fuck? Why does this character exist at all? At all? And then later it was like, well, it's Kurt Russell's wife. But that character was in the script. Like, that character existed before they cast Kurt Russell's wife as that character. So, like, why the fuck is she in this movie?
To get pulled into the ground.
Yeah, he's like killed by the crazies.
I just landed in hellhole, New York, and guys came out of sewer covers, and I go into a chock full of nuts place. And then this lady is like film noir style, like, you must be Snake Plissken.
Chain smoking in the corner. Speaking at an above average volume, but not concerned at all.
I know, about attracting attention. Shot or anything.
They're not going to hear us.
Yeah, must be Snake Plissken. And he's like, yeah, I'm unsurprised that you're here and that you know me. And she's like, why don't we get really close with our faces and talk? And maybe even kill her. And she gets dragged on the floor. You're like, she's going to come back later and provide valuable, commentary or something. Like, she'll have a map as to how to. No, she just fucking died. Okay, that character had no point in a movie that they did all these cuts on in the first place. Like,
the only value I thought that she provided was that she lets you know that the crazies come out after dark or something. But like, be in the streets. I don't know.
But did the crazies play any role whatsoever after meeting the Duke?
They just wanted coffee at chock full of nuts.
and they tell you right away in the movie, the whole island is full of nutcases. There's no law. There's no order. It's just a mad fucking like loony bin of criminals like running the place on their own. So you don't really need to wonder, like, is it bad there? Oh, it's bad there. They dragged her onto the floor. It must be bad here. Now we get the idea.
So do they like eat her? Or are they cannibals?
They probably eat her. Yeah. No, like, that's the thing. It's like another movie too. Like, that's like a zombie movie scene where you're like, oh my god, the zombies got her. But like,
I would have named them something different. The Crazies.
The Crazies. Yeah, it's like
it doesn't really belie terror.
No, again, it's like, this is like the filmmakers being like, let's move it along. They're the Crazies. They come out of the manhole covers. They're the Crazies. Let's get to the other shit that we're gonna do. But yeah, I thought
let's get Snake killing people.
Yeah, okay. Let's start the killing. Which is in that same scene, he has to escape the Crazies, so he like climbs up a fire escape and jumps into a window.
The longest escape.
And he slides a bookcase in front of the window, and you see the two Crazies going like climbing up to the window, and then you see from Snake's perspective, you hear clamoring outside, and it goes "Caca," and you hear "Oh!"
Somebody shoots the guy's hand off.
He shoots the guys through the bookcase. They both go "Ow!" Basically.
Also, is that Snake Plissken in there?
The subsequent scene, he creates a hole for himself in the wall by shooting it with bullets, and I was like, "Well, you don't have much ammo.
You have like 8 bullets. What the fuck are you doing?"
That? And then he just easily jumps through the wall like it's made out of like paper mache.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, there's so much ammo wasting.
Yeah,
in a place with no resources. Like they drive cars all over the place. They shoot at like. That scene where the Mr. Big or whatever is shooting at the president. The Duke is like, he was like shooting around the president. It's like, A, you have like no bullets, so you're wasting them all on a joke. B, if you kill the president, you're fucked. Your entire plan is not killing the president yet and escaping from the island with everyone on the Manhattan Island because you have the president.
I do also appreciate the fact that none of his hooligans thought to look what's in the briefcase.
I know, the whole time. I know. And again, it's like
what's that?
The briefcase is from like a thrift store. It's like the lining is falling out of it and shit. You're like, Jesus Christ, guys.
And Steve Buscemi Beetlejuice is like, what?
He's like,
there's paper.
What's in here? And then he picks up the cassette and he like holds it up to his ear as if it would play. And then he like shakes it and then puts it in his shirt pocket like you do.
This is important.
Like, what's this?
I know. And then somehow the cabbie steals it from him. He's like,
he trades him for his hat.
Oh, he trades him for his. Well, I mean, a fine trade.
A lot of well thought out plans.
Yeah.
In this
like
movie.
when the president's wearing a wig for some reason.
God, that scene is delicious.
Apparently, that was Donald Pleasance's idea. He was like, I think they should put a wig on me in this scene, and the boys will be roughing me up, and I'll have a wig on.
How crazy would it be if I had flowing locks?
I've always wanted flowing locks because I haven't got any hair.
Oh my God! I love how it's uncommented on. It's just he's got a wig on. That's it. No one says anything.
Yep.
That's delicious. I love that scene so much. Well, what I liked about the movie, I actually really liked Romero. But not because I found him just so crazily interesting. Like
Romero,
it's the Beetlejuice guy. Like it's such an
guy,
yeah. Frank Doubleday. It's just the strangest performance of an actor I've ever seen. I just find it very oddly fascinating. The second he came on the screen, I was like, "What is going on? I got to know more about this." And I dug in and I read a little bit about the character, and apparently Frank Doubleday just thought about it and this is a character he wanted to do, and he just made it up, and that was the character. Yeah, just make him crazy.
It strikes me as hey, what if David Bowie were on a prison? Ziggy, he was kind of like Ziggy Stardust-esque or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, they have him be sort of androgynous and stuff. So I get what you're saying there. He slinks around and bumps his bellies against people and stuff like that. You're like, I don't know what the fuck he's doing. I don't know. I guess it's interesting.
Yeah. And he's wearing arm bangles and he has nail polish on, and I was like, okay, this is very 80s, but I don't know what they're really going for.
But I mean, as a companion piece to this comment, I will say the chief of police is a guy in a rumpled TJ Maxx shirt with an earring and he's all sweaty and greasy, and I'm like, this guy's running the fucking show. And then they're like,
Lee Van Cleef?
Lee Van Cleef. Lee Van Cleef. So they're like, the vice president is on the horn, he's like, yeah, well, that's because I'm in charge of everything. And so it's the president and then the vice president and then Lee Van Cleef with a fucking earring. That's the chain of command in the United States. Okay, I guess that's the chain of
We're
command.
in good hands, man.
I know. I'm like, you look like not an authority figure at all. You just look like someone's divorced dad.
I like the medic who suddenly grows a conscience after injecting him with
tell him.
You got to tell him.
Tell him.
You owe it to him. Like, you suddenly developed a conscience, like, right now after you just fucking killed this dude.
He's like, he made me do it.
Like, didn't you take an oath or something? Like, Jesus.
And then when they're hauling him up from the wall at the end, when they, to save him, that guy's there, the tell him guy, the doctor that injected him with the neck bombs, but like he's in a truck just fucking around, and like they pull Snake Plissken up, and he has like 32 seconds left of life, and then the guy's like, better hop out of the truck. You're like, wouldn't you be waiting by the wall?
Hold on, I gotta log in.
Ready. And he's like,
gotta log in.
Hold on a second. Yeah. Hold on a second.
Updates. Sorry, Snake.
And why does the president stop the winch?
The winch
or whatever to like up the wall. He just like stops it and then
that makes no sense.
The Duke, and then he lets him back up. I was like, oh, I thought they were gonna like sacrifice.
The president turns into a homicidal maniac for like 15 seconds. Where he's like, like shoots the Duke like 75 times.
Number one.
You're number one. You're the Duke of New York. Ah! And he's like,
Did we mention that the Duke was Isaac Hayes? Did we not mention?
We didn't mention it yet, but yeah.
Okay, we mentioned that. All right. I thought that was interesting.
That was interesting. I gotta say, any movie that someone gave me the script for and said, you drive a car with fucking chandeliers on the front, like twin chandeliers on the front of the car and a disco ball hanging from the rearview mirror, I'd be like, I'm in. I don't care what the fuck it is. I don't care how bad it is. I'm driving a Cadillac with
it's the details,
like chandeliers on it.
Was the brain's plan like turn left, turn right, turn left? Like he's got the map to where the mines are on the bridge.
Yeah,
and he's just like eyeballing it. Like
So for anyone that hasn't seen this movie, he's the Duke's brain. He's the guy that gets gasoline for the crew and figures things out for them, and he's the smart guy.
Played by Harry Dean Stanton.
And not that well, actually. I like Harry Dean Stanton, but I was like, he's very good in this. But yeah, he gets a map from a guy who made it across the Brooklyn Bridge and then got killed and gets around all the mines. But he gets a map from this guy who died somehow, because when the guy died, his ghost fucking brought the map back or something. I'm a little unclear about that. But the brain is supposed to lead the crew with the president and Snake and the cabbie and Adrian Barbeau, who's named Maggie or something. He's supposed to lead them off the bridge and into freedom, around all the mines. Yeah.
And that's the plan.
Right. That's the plan.
That's the plan from the brain.
That's the plan from the brain.
Go across a bridge covered in mines. Because we have the president as a hostage, we're just going to go out there into free society again.
Yeah.
And then
into the mines.
Yeah, that'll be it.
But he has the map with him, but he doesn't look at it. So they're driving down the bridge, and he's got the map somewhere, but he's just like, turn left, turn right, turn left, turn right. Yeah. And like twice he's wrong, and then screams that he said the other thing. Like he's like, go left, and they go left, and the car blows up. The cab blows in half, like
and
clean down the middle.
Yeah.
Severing the cab and what's his name's Ernest Borgnine's life somehow, and just kills the cabbie somehow, despite blowing the car up in half. And then he gets out of the car and he's like, I said go right. I'm like, no, you didn't. You said fucking go left.
I'm gonna rewind it.
They went left and you blew up. And then they go further and he's like, go right, and they blow up. They blow up again.
Except he gets blown up.
Yeah, he just gets thrown. I think what we're trying to say here is the brain is not actually very smart.
Brain is a fucking moron.
And this was the worst plan ever to break out of the prison.
The original plan was so Snake gets into New York through a glider.
Yeah.
So the original plan is to get back to the World Trade Center to take the glider out. But the crazies have gotten a hold of the glider and they trashed that plan.
They're like,
so this is plan B.
No, the Duke's plan. I mean, because the Duke had this plan to ostensibly kidnap the president, and this was his gambit, was to get out of prison by driving across the bridge. And then what?
With every single person on the island of Manhattan behind him, and they all get away free and clear because they have the president something. It's a very bad plan.
But the Duke says they were going to kill the president, and his head was going to be on the hood of the car.
No, he said he was going to kill Snake
dead.
Plissken and put Snake Plissken's head in the front of his car. He's like, they sent their best man. That's when he's in the ring fighting down with the axe, the clubs and stuff.
You're right.
But they said their best man. Their best man's going to end up coming with us to lead the president out of here from the neck up. And everyone's like, yay. Yeah. And he's like, on the hood of my car. And everyone's like, yay. And he's like, dead. And everyone's like, yay.
Yeah, that was implied.
This is kind of the first time you've done this, huh? You're very good at this.
they really, like, when he was shooting at the president, when he was pinned up, like, every time there's a shot, there was this, like, scripted, like, yay. Okay, so what didn't we like about the film? It sounds like there's a lot of cheesy stuff that is enjoyable but silly.
Yeah.
Is there anything you objectively thought was like, this is dumb? This doesn't need to be here.
Well, I said it before. It crawls sometimes. It's like the Warriors in a lot of ways, where you're like, the subject matter is really compelling, and the sets and the lighting are compelling, and there are a lot of actors that you're like, I don't really fucking care if you live or die. Like the Warriors, or like the woman Maggie, you're like, who fucking cares? And the Brain, you're like, I don't care. You could get run over or something. Gives a shit. Ernest Borgnine, I was like, no, they killed Ernest Borgnine. He's the only one I really care about. And Snake Plissken. Snake Plissken's cool. But you're like, I don't care what the president. Who gives a fuck? He seems like a tool. There's the characters, many of them I do not care about. The police commissioner, you're like, this guy is just terrible. So there's a lot of characters on the bad side. There's a lot of characters I don't give a fuck about. You're like, almost everyone I don't give a fuck about, except for Snake and the cabbie. Two people I like. And then there's a lot of scenes where like they're just wandering the fuck around and nothing is happening. This guy's life is like pissing away as we watch the movie, and he's just like meandering around New York looking at stuff. So there's that where you're like, I could actually use more action in this movie.
Yeah.
Like there isn't a lot of it. And then there's a lot of in-betweeny stuff.
When the plot is thin to begin with, or the dialogue, like you can't have a whole lot of downtime. Like you just expect there to be, and I think they may have figured this out like in the late 80s, just have like Rambos, like tons of guns and explosions to fill those gaps. Because it's like when there's downtime with bad dialogue, you're like, all right, what are we doing here?
All right, well, we've said what we liked, we've said what we don't like.
Well, I want to grade this. You didn't say what you didn't like.
What I didn't like?
Yeah,
I didn't like. So this came out the exact same year as The Road Warrior.
Oh yeah.
And when I compare the two, I find The Road Warrior is just vastly superior to this.
Yeah,
like on almost every single level.
Forever, but yeah.
And the problem I had with this, I mean, I saw this back in college, and I think I liked it around the same time I saw They Live for the first time. And coming back to it, and also reading like all the supplementary stuff, like this is widely considered to be a classic, a cult classic.
Yeah,
people love it. People think Snake Plissken is just a badass, awesome character.
Yeah,
and I'm going into it, I'm like, it's not great. Like none of it's great. Like like even compared to other John Carpenter movies, like this is pretty weak on a lot of different levels. And I'm thinking of like a post-apocalyptic world. You've got New York. You've got all these like ready-made landmarks ready to go, and he never really like made it pay off. And I never really believed that it's a real post-apocalyptic world. Whereas Road Warrior, it's very believable that this is Australia in the far off future where people are trying to kill each other, and their costumes don't look like they just grabbed it from the Nice Price bin.
Yeah, totally.
And it came out the exact same year, so I feel like that is an indictment of like, you should have brought the quality up a little bit, John Carpenter. Like there's maybe spend a little less time letting your characters use Aquanet on their hair all the way up. And
I agree. I don't particularly think that Snake Plissken is cool.
Yeah.
Like that, it's a corny, like the tat, the eye patch. Like, is that really necessary? Like, is that what you thought was cool and tough in the 80s?
Well, and the eye patch was Kurt Russell's idea. Apparently, he sprung it on Carpenter the last second. He was just like, hey, I'm using this eye patch. Carpenter was
you
like,
know what's
oh,
a dumb
cool.
nickname? Snake.
Snake.
Yeah.
Call me Plissken.
And you don't really get the sense that he's particularly like tough, or I mean, he has muscles, but it's like, he's not like. We
do get the requisite scene where he sits down in front of a commanding officer, and the commanding officer reads his life to him, which he's like, I fucking know. But it's like, for the audience, it's always like the laziest storytelling where they're like,
totally.
Snake Plissken, twice, like ninja combat veteran, like he's extraordinaire. Won World War III and World War IV, wounded 6 times, Purple Heart, awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by the president. Also, robbed the Treasury building. Like, okay, we all know his story now in the laziest fucking way that you just shat out. Yeah.
So how would you improve the character of Snake Plissken if you were there to rewrite him?
I don't know if you can make him better. It just, his dialogue's pretty bad. I think he says, I'm Snake or Snake Plissken. Half of his dialogue is just saying his own name.
Yeah, I feel like part of it is, and I read that he said he based the character on Clint Eastwood. That's just doing a thing, though. That's not like a character. That's just like, I'm going to sort of try to sound like Clint Eastwood. And it shows for me. Like, I don't think he is that good at this type of character yet. I was watching it and being like, I would like to see Kurt Russell 10 years later playing this guy, which is probably why I would want to see Escape from LA, because he was just coming out of Disney movies where he played the good guy, and he seems hesitant in this. He seems like he's not fully figured out how to be someone like Snake Plissken. Like he's wearing the costume, he's doing a voice, he's doing lots of like takes to the camera and stuff like that. He's doing lots of like posturing, but he hasn't fully inhabited this type of character, and you can tell he's getting his feet wet with this type of character,
Funny too, like in like in Big Trouble Little China, he's great. Like when he has like a comedic edge to it.
Exactly, comedic. Like that's the thing. Like I want Roddy Piper as Nada, as
he
Snake
needs to have a little more.
Like I want some one-liners. I want a little bit comedic touch to temper down the like constant badass.
Yeah, he seems tender and a lot of times I have trouble hearing him. For fuck's sake, you're like, I can't hear you, dude. There were scenes where at the beginning, especially and I think they filmed it in order. And there's scenes in the beginning where he's talking to the cop, and he's just like, yeah, it's fine. The cop would be like, what? What did you say? I'm old and I have an earring blocking my ear. It's so huge. So yeah, I think he's less confident. He's not the Kurt Russell that we have come to know later in his career. I was like, that's one where I bet if you had given him this part, even 5 years later, after he played a couple more parts like this, you'd have that swagger in there. You'd have the confidence. He wouldn't be just doing a character like, I'm going to do a Clint Eastwood character. Like, that's a lame kind of cop-out way to act. He would have just been like, I'm going to be a fucking badass, because I'm Kurt Russell. And, he would have done it.
I will add, if you guys go back to your what could I make, maybe don't put him in camo pants and like an Under Armour shirt.
Zippers,
like what the fuck is he wearing?
Yeah,
I mean, in the beginning, at least it's a leather jacket. That looks kind of cool.
Yeah, no.
But, like, I don't know, just put him in normal clothes.
Yeah. The department in charge of wardrobe was not familiar with what a tough guy.
We got to show his muscles. We got to show him
an Ed Hardy
like,
shirt. Yeah. He's like someone's dad. Being
like,
cool.
Quaff his hair. His
tummy
hair
tattoo was put on with like a shirt.
Yeah, totally.
But okay, put the tattoo on his arm. Or like his like what? Because they hide that the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it makes more sense if you call him Snake if he has like a snake tattoo on him.
Outside of like Tupac or the guy from Sublime, like the tummy tattoo, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, on a scale of
he goes, I guess so.
On a scale of F- being Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, or an A+ being Oh Hello on Broadway. These are 2 Broadway musicals.
What?
One being really bad.
Oh, okay.
Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark was the one where the guy kept falling and people kept falling and getting hurt.
Which is New York.
Oh, really?
Like Bono fronted the money for it or something.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. That's why it's the finest.
Got it. And what's an A? Hello, Dolly. What the fuck?
Hello.
What, is that's also a play?
Yeah.
How about Hello
John
New York,
Mulaney
which is
and Nick Kroll?
Too much tuna.
No,
Too much tuna. Too much tuna play.
Is the greatest.
Maybe A should be the Hello New York, which is the musical they're performing that Ernest Borgnine is so into.
After
Escape from New York.
How about
a little self-referential?
An F is Snake's tattoo, and then an A is just Ernest Borgnine's smile.
It's hat.
His hat, yeah.
Ernest Borgnine's hat.
Okay, so what is it? F- or an A+ for you guys?
I'll go first, just because I feel like I kind of shat on it a little bit, but I enjoyed it. In the sense, I think in these movies, it's easy to kind of goof on the inconsistencies and the over-the-top stuff. But I think if you go into it with the correct frame of reference, you get it. Like I wasn't expecting a fantastic film. I was expecting a low-budget action sci-fi movie, and I feel like it delivers in that. And it's got funny characters, and I think it's better than The Warriors. I think it's
I think so too.
I think it had more going on a little bit. I mean, the scope of the story tried to be a lot bigger than it could afford. Mm-hmm. But with the whole Manhattan thing and stuff, but I thought it was cool. And I think it makes for like as Greg said, like I can see that being a really cool pitch in the room. Yeah. But then they looked at their wallets and they're like, "Oh man, I got $5." Like,
you want a plane to crash? Fuck.
All right, can we? You got to make a paper plane. So
here's the World Trade Center. That's never good.
So I think they had budgetary issues, and but other than that, I really enjoyed it. I give it B.
B's nuts.
B's nuts.
B movie.
Lee Van Queef, you want to go?
He's going to go higher or lower than me.
Yeah. I feel like the same as Brian, where these are movies I love to shit on because they have all kinds of stupid inconsistencies and dumb stuff happens and the floor falls open and there you can tell it's cardboard and you're like, Jesus Christ, come on guys, go home, you're drunk. But then, the end product is enjoyable, so I feel like I'm sticking with what I said at the beginning. Like it pitches great, the script is stupid, and then the finished product is pretty good. There were moments in the movie where I was watching like the lighting, like there was one scene where they're coming down like the cabbie was turning down a street and you see it's lit from the back and you see the wind through the windows. And the cab's windows like slide across like 4 buildings and like come to a rest like way in front of where the cab is. And you can see people's shadows in it. And I was like, that's a good fucking shot, man. Like that's someone who knows what the fuck they're doing. So there are class moments like that where you're like, this is a good filmmaker, making a pulp movie. And I kind of tuck that away as you watch the movie. Like it helps you forgive some of the other dumb stuff where you're like, yeah, he's just trying to tell the fucking story. He's trying to move it along, trying to get to stuff. I think where I ding the movie is when they don't move the story along. Like there's meandering in this movie that it can't afford to have. And Brian talked about that earlier. Like if you're gonna have an hour and a half movie about a post-apocalyptic New York hellscape where you're trying to rescue the president and save your own life because you have bombs implanted in your neck, shit's got to move, man. There can't be like meandering downtime where there's that scene in The Bridge where the brain gets blown up and his assigned wife suddenly is like way in love with him and ready to end her own life over it, and Kurt Russell's like hanging there while the fucking Duke is driving at them, which the Duke seems to keep getting farther and farther away. He was like right behind him, but like suddenly he's way back again. But anyway, it's like a really urgent scene, and Kurt Russell's just sitting there watching this lady look at the brain's corpse, and he's like, hey, we got to move it along, man. Like, move it the fuck along. You have 3 minutes of life left. get the fuck out of there. Let her deal with her own thing. So that's where I can't forgive the movie as much. You're like, move it the fuck along. It's supposed to be a life or death scenario the entire time. Like every second is a second of this guy's life ticking away. So that's when I ding it a little. But yeah, overall, like I still like really enjoyed the movie. I watched it again and I enjoyed it better the second time. Because you can kind of like, you already know that stupid shit is in the movie and you're like, well, now let's just watch it, And yeah, so overall, I think I would give it, I wish there were a grade between B- and B. But I think I'm going to give it a B-, because it is good, but also slow in a movie that should be fast. So, and Kurt Russell hasn't grown into that role yet. He does a good job, but not like a great job.
All right. B-.
Joshua?
I'm going to give this a solid C. I think that this is a movie that most of America wants to like because they feel like they should like it because it is over the top. And it is like occupying this weird space in the 80s where it's a very far-fetched idea that is occasionally executed really well, but mostly not. But I think it just kind of falls apart. Like you're right. The pacing is completely off in this film. Like there's so much they can just cut out. And there's so many like side characters that they just focus on because they thought it would pay off. Like they're George Lucas and they can sell these guys as action figures or some shit. They're like, no.
Which one would you want as an action
girl
figure?
And chock full of nuts.
Yeah, that
Beetlejuice guy.
Absolutely.
Totally.
He's the
Romero.
Boba Fett of the Escape from New York-averse.
He's Bib Fortuna of the fucking movie.
Yeah.
Do you remember Bib Fortuna? He was Jabba's guy.
And I'm not going to compare it to any other John Carpenter movies because they're all different. But it's not nearly as good as any of the others that I've seen. So, but on its own work of art, I'd watch it again because I did enjoy kind of ripping on it. But there are aspects of it that I really do, genuinely like. The idea is a fantastic idea. If you overlook every single functional piece that would go into actually making New York a viable prison for whatever this hypothetical society is. But I give it a C. It's just.
And this has come from somebody who's seen David Lynch's Dune numerous times.
Yeah. But you never. I gave that an F.
That's right.
Yeah, totally.
And I love watching it. So.
Yeah. I think like. This is one of the, it's another John Carpenter movie for me where, if I were to take it at face value, if I were to take it on paper, it would be like a D or a D-, honestly, like there's so much dumb shit in it. There's so many inconsistencies. There's so much plotting, pacing, but like when you put it all together, like it's still pretty entertaining to me. And I watched it again and I wasn't sad that I watched it again. I was like, it was actually a little more enjoyable.
I think the pacing would keep me from like, I'd have to fast forward through a bunch of parts to get to like the good stuff. But at the end of the day, I also don't think that Snake Plissken is a very good character. Like he's very two-dimensional.
Yeah,
there's not much to him.
Totally.
He's got a name. Yeah. He's got a tattoo of that name. He's got an eye patch. And that's about it. All right. So what are we doing? What are we doing next week?
What are we
doing? I think you should know because it's your pick.
Know. It's my choice.
It's on the calendar.
It's on the calendar. Check the calendar, guys.
It's on the calendar.
I am choosing 2 albums by the Portland band The Thermals.
Who gave you 2 albums?
Me. I declared.
Oh, okay.
I declared it. I originally put it on as either one of these albums, but then I was like, it's summer vacation. We got time to listen to a couple albums.
Fucking A.
Don't we?
Listen to some.
First album is Fucking A. And second album is The Body, the Blood, the Machine. Yet another concept album. By a punk band. I tend to have a type, I think. But
yeah.
So,
and this is on me, I guess. I've never listened to the Thermals.
I have heard. I've never listened to fucking the first album, but I listened to the Body, Blood, and the Machine. Now we can see, and what's whatever the third or fourth one is. There are three in a row that I listened to.
The first album is actually more parts per million, and then fucking A, and then the Body, Blood, the Machine.
Yeah.
Now we can see, and then there's Personal Life, and then there's like another one after that. But
Personal Life was the one that wasn't that good. It was
Based on what you know of my music taste, do you think I will enjoy it?
I think you're going to love it. I think you're going to love it.
I think it's if you can get around the take it or leave it singer's voice.
Ooh. He does have a unique sound, like sound, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but you like They Might Be Giants, man. So I don't know. Like you can't talk too much about unique, strange voices.
Oh, I like weird voices, you know.
But he's got like a liquid in, liquid out. My life was
that's actually my least favorite song verse. But fucking A, crank up fucking A, and then go into the Body, the Blood, the Machine, and read between the lines. It's a really fascinating album. But
it's the best punk rock album about the Old Testament you'll ever listen to.
Yeah.
Hey,
I like that. That's a good tag on. We're gonna put that on.
Yeah. I fucking love that album. Body, Blood, and Machine. I listened to it like 100 times. I think it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm looking forward to it then. All right. See you later.
Yeah. I'm gonna go out and kill a bunch of weirdos when I come back.
Hey, Greg, you want to get a cup of shot full of nuts?
Spotted